The flickering neon light cast eerie shadows as the warden entered the cell. "That's it, Reid. Time's up." His voice was almost mechanical. Reid Harrison slowly lifted his head. His wrists were shackled in heavy irons, and deep wrinkles carved into his face. Marks of 5 years on death row. But there was no fear in his eyes. Only unshakable resolve. "I have one last request," he said quietly. "I want to see my dog Storm." The warden hesitated. Procedure was procedure. Inmates usually asked for a special meal or a visit from family. But a dog? "I'll ask," he muttered, and left, leaving Reid alone with his thoughts. Reid closed his eyes. In his mind, he saw Storm, his loyal German shepherd, the only friend who remained after the arrest. He remembered the night he rescued the pup from a shelter. How that dog had pulled him out of the darkest time in his life. "Just once," he whispered. "I just want to see him one more time." 15 miles away, in a small country house, the phone rang. Tess Vale, a young veterinarian with tired eyes and tousled red hair, picked up the receiver. "Yes? This is Warden Coleman. It's about Reid Harrison. He made a final request, and it concerns the dog you're caring for." Tess froze. Her heart pounded. "Storm? He wants to see Storm?" "Yes. He'd like to see him before." Coleman cleared his throat. "Before it's all over." Tess pressed her lips together. She was convinced Reid was innocent. Over the years, she'd received dozens of letters from him, all filled with unwavering faith that the truth would one day surface. She believed in him. But now, time had run out. "I'll bring him. Give me an hour." But when she called for the dog, there was no response. The front door was locked, but the porch window was ajar. A torn piece of leash lay on the floor. Panic surged through her. Storm was gone. With trembling hands, she dialed a number she hadn't used in years. "Lane? I need your help. It's about Reid and Storm." A pause on the other end. Then a low voice replied, "Already on my way." Minutes flew by. Tess searched the entire house, closets, under furniture. Storm had vanished. She ran out to the porch, scanning the darkness of the garden. The cool night air carried distant barking. But was it Storm? As she was about to get in her car, a black Dodge Charger screeched to a stop in front of the house. A tall man with scars on his face stepped out. Scars that looked like they held stories he never told. "What happened?" he asked, eyes sharp like a predator's. "Storm's gone," Tess breathed. "Porch windows open, leashes torn. Someone took him, Lane, and Reid's out of time, completely." Lane cursed softly and pulled out his phone. "Vince, we've got a problem. Someone took the dog. Not just any dog. Reid's dog. Find out who's behind it." While Lane talked, Tess remembered the previous evening. Suddenly, a memory surfaced. A dark sedan that has slowly passed her house several times. "I saw a car yesterday," she murmured. "A dark sedan. It drove by 2 or 3 times. I thought I imagined it, but now..." Lane nodded. "Then we've got a starting point. Get in." At the same time, in the city's industrial zone, Storm strained against a chain fastened to his collar. He growled low, ears twitching at every sound. The warehouse was dimly lit, only a flickering ceiling lamp giving off weak light. A man in a grey suit leaned against a crate, watching him with a smug smile. "Beautiful dog," he said, taking a slow drag on his cigarette. Shame he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Another man, thin with icy eyes, stepped from the shadows. The order was to isolate him, not harm him, yet. The suited man shrugged. "Depends on what our friend Reid does next." Storm barked furiously, trying to break free. Somehow, he knew Reid needed him. And he would fight with everything he had to get back to his master. Meanwhile, Reid sat on his prison cot, staring at the narrow beam of light, falling through the barred window. In a few hours, it would all be over. The door opened. The warden entered, followed by the prison chief. "We've got a problem," the chief said grimly. "The dog is missing. Someone kidnapped him right before he was supposed to be brought here." Reid's breath caught. "What? Who?" "We don't know, but we're working on it." Reid's fists clenched. His last wish, the one thing that had kept him going for 5 years, was stolen. But who? And why? Lane's charger tore through the empty streets as he made another call. "We've got a lead. Warehouse at the port. We need backup." Tess turned to him. She knew time was against them. If they didn't find Storm, Reid would die without seeing him again. Dawn's twilight cloaked the port in mist. Fog drifted between the abandoned warehouses. Water lapped gently against the docks. Seagulls cried in the distance. Lane parked in a dark alley, pulled a pistol from under the seat. "Stay in the car." Tess's eyes flashed. "Forget it. That's my dog in there." Lane looked at her for a moment, then sighed. "Then stick close. If things go sideways, run." They crept toward the warehouse. Lane pressed against the wall, trying to see through the grimy window. Inside, shadows moved. 2 men, one in a suit, the other with a hood pulled over his face. And in the center, chained but still ready to fight, Storm. "That guy has no idea who he's dealing with," Lane muttered. Tess clenched her fists. "Then let's show him." Back in his cell, Reid paced. He didn't know what was happening outside, but he knew someone desperately wanted to keep him from seeing Storm. The question was, why? Was it just a cruel game, or something more? The chief still stood in the doorway. "We're trying to get information, but I can't promise anything." Reid looked up. Lane hid behind a stack of pallets and silently counted. 2 guards, possibly more in the shadows. Tess picked up a rusty pipe from the ground. "We can't waste time." Lane smirked. "I like your attitude." With a smooth motion, he tossed a pebble against the metal wall. The clang echoed loudly through the warehouse. People inside flinched. What was that? "No idea. Go check." A man in a hood pulled out a pistol and headed for the door. As he stepped out, Lane grabbed him from behind, knocked the gun out of his hand, and slammed him hard against the wall. The man collapsed unconscious. "Not bad," Tess whispered, impressed. Inside, Storm barked loudly. He had heard her. But the man in the suit noticed too. He pulled out his gun and aimed it at the dog. "Don't move, or the mutt dies." Tess gasped. But Lane just chuckled quietly. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." With a subtle hand gesture, and before the man could react, Storm, despite the chain, lunged at the villain with a fierce growl. At that moment, the prison warden was hurrying toward the cell. "Reid, there's news." Reid turned around, heart pounding. "Come with me, now." Back at the abandoned warehouse, Storm had broken free. The chain still dangled from his neck, but it didn't slow him down. With one powerful leap, he tackled the man in the suit to the floor. The pistol clattered away. "Storm, back!" Tess called, but the dog didn't even flinch. Growling low, he stood over the man, baring sharp teeth. Lane stepped closer and kicked the pistol farther away. "If I were you, I wouldn't move," he said coldly. The man blinked in shock and raised his hands. "You people have no idea what you've gotten yourselves into," he muttered. Lane drew his own gun and aimed it at him. "Then explain it to us." Tess knelt next to Storm, gently stroking his back. "It's over, boy. We're taking you back to Reid." But just then, they heard the screech of tires outside. Then, slamming doors and men shouting. "Reinforcements," Lane muttered. "We need to move, now." Tess glanced at the back door. "That way." Lane grabbed the man by the collar and yanked him to his feet. "You're coming with us. Reid might want a word with you." With Tess nearby, Storm stopped growling and followed her closely. They ran through the warehouse, Lane leading, Tess and the dog right behind. They could hear people breaking into the building behind them. "They're gone," someone yelled. Then, gunfire. Reid sat in the prison van, his wrists still bound in handcuffs. The warden sat beside him, looking serious. "I don't know exactly what's happening," he said, lowering his voice. "But apparently a Federal Bureau agent found your dog. I got orders from above to fully cooperate." Reid's heart pounded. "Where's my dog? Is he okay?" "We're headed there now," the warden replied. Reid leaned back in the seat and closed his eyes. He didn't know whether to feel hope or fear. What if it was a trap? But one thing was certain. If Storm was alive, there was still hope. Lane swiftly tied the captive's hands and shoved him into the Charger. Tess jumped into the passenger seat, and Storm, panting heavily, climbed into the back. The first bullets hit the car just as Lane started the engine. "Get down," he yelled, slamming the gas pedal. The car shot out of the alley and tore through the narrow port streets. In the rearview mirror, they saw their pursuers. 2 black SUVs chasing after them without hesitation. "This won't be easy," Lane growled. Tess turned to look at Storm. The dog was tense, his eyes blazing with determination. "We need to lose them," she said, "or we're in serious trouble." Lane just raised an eyebrow. "Then hold on tight." The Charger screeched onto the main road, running the red light. Cars raced through the intersection. A stream of traffic ahead nearly blocked their path. "Hold on," Lane roared, jerking the wheel. The tires squealed as the car shot into a narrow alley, so tight the side mirrors nearly scraped the walls. Behind them, the 2 SUVs crashed into each other. A dull thud, shattering glass. "That should slow them down," Lane muttered. Tess exhaled in relief and looked back at Storm, alert and loyal in the back seat. The man in the suit, hands bound, whimpered, "Let me go." Lane glanced at him in the mirror. "Not a chance. You're going to meet Reid." The man paled. "This is insane. You have no idea who you're messing with." Tess leaned toward him. "Then tell us." But the man pressed his lips shut. "Coward," Lane growled. "Then Reid will get the answers from you." He stepped on the gas. Reid felt the vehicle stop abruptly. Through the small barred windows, he saw they weren't at the prison. "Where are we?" he asked. Coleman, sitting next to him, laughed again. Had to improvise. Circumstances changed. Reid's stomach tightened. Was it a trap? The doors opened. 2 guards helped him out. And then he heard it. A deep, excited bark. Reid's heart raced. A blur charged at him. A strong, furry body pressed into him, warm breath on his skin. Reid sank to his knees, feeling a wet nose on his cheek, desperate licks, a wagging tail, trembling. 5 years. 5 years without him. And now he was finally here. Out of the corner of his eye, Reid saw the warden step aside, watching their reunion. A moment later, Coleman called Lane over. They spoke briefly, and then the warden handed Lane some papers. Lane signed them without even looking. His gaze turned hard, his shoulders tensed. Then he'd better explain why. They quickly tied the prisoner to the only chair in the room. Reid loomed directly in front of him, his fists clenched. "Talk." The man hesitated. Then he laughed quietly. "You think you've won? You have no idea what you were just saved from." Reid's stare remained icy. "Then explain it to me." "It's not just about you," the man said. "This is much bigger." Lane pulled out his gun, slowly spinning the chamber. "I've got patience, but not endless." The man swallowed. "You think this was just a game? Your dog wasn't kidnapped by accident, Reid. He was supposed to be eliminated." Tess frowned. "Why?" The prisoner stubbornly remained silent, his jaw clenched. Then Storm stepped closer, bared his teeth, and growled so low and deep the man jolted in his chair. The deadly fear in his eyes, quickly shifted to a willingness to talk. Because that dog knows something. Or rather, he holds something no one was meant to see. Reid's stomach tightened. "Storm," he whispered. He slowly knelt before the dog. Storm tilted his head, as if sensing his owner was looking for something. Reid ran his fingers through the thick fur until he felt something solid. His hands trembled as he pulled out the mysterious object. It was a tiny flash drive, securely hidden beneath the buckle of the collar. Reid's gaze snapped to the man in the suit. "What's on it?" The man smirked. "The truth." Reid stared at the little flash drive in his hand. For 5 years, he had sat in a cell. 5 years hoping for justice. And now, finally, there was a clue in his grasp. Tess glanced anxiously at Lane. "We need to find out what's on it." Lane nodded. "I know a place where we can check it safely." Then he aimed the gun at the suited man. "But first, he's going to tell us more." The prisoner leaned back in the chair and sighed. "You see right through me. I'm just a middleman. You've stumbled onto something far bigger than you think." Reid's patience ran out. "Tell me what's on that flash drive, or you'll regret it." The prisoner cast a desperate glance at Storm's bared teeth and hissed through clenched teeth. "Bank transfers, secret deals, names of people who did everything they could to see you dead." "You're not just innocent, Reid. You're the only obstacle to people who would have lost millions if you had stayed alive." Reid clenched his teeth until they squeaked. He had always known it. He was just a scapegoat. "Who's behind this?" Tess asked in a cold voice. The man said nothing. Lane cocked the gun. "This is your last chance." A brief moment of silence, then a shot. But it wasn't Lane who fired. Outside the window, a flash lit up. The man in the suit's eyes widened. Then he slumped forward, dead. "Damn it," Lane shouted, dragging Reid and Tess to the floor. Another bullet hit the wall. Someone wanted to make sure the prisoner never spoke again. "We need to get out of here now," Tess yelled. Lane snatched the flash drive from Reid's hand and ran toward the back door. Storm silently followed them, ears alert. Tires crunched outside. A black SUV pulled up. "It's the same people from before," Tess shouted. Lane ducked behind a dumpster. "Then let's end this quick." He drew his pistol and returned fire. Reid and Tess ran to the Charger, Storm leaping into the back seat. "Once we're out of here, we're going public with this," Tess said. Reid started the engine. "Hold on tight." He slammed the gas pedal. 24 hours later, a news channel aired a live broadcast. In a shocking turn of events, evidence from an anonymously submitted flash drive has revealed a conspiracy that nearly cost an innocent man his life and implicated high-level politicians and business leaders in an international corruption scandal. Reid Harrison, who was set to be executed just a day ago, has now been fully exonerated. Reid watched the screen from an anonymous hotel room. Lane stood beside him, arms crossed. Tess stroked Storm's head as the dog lay contentedly at her side. "We did it," she said quietly. Reid took a deep breath. 5 years of uncertainty, 5 years of pain, but now his life was his again. He leaned down to Storm. "You saved me, boy." Storm wagged his tail. Reid's gaze turned grim. "But the ones who planned this, they're still out there." Lane grinned. "And we've got to deal with them." Reid stood, called Storm to his side, and confidently headed toward the door. His eyes burned with the determination to see justice through to the end.